Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the return of the Aenir node in Doomskar Claimants. So that's going to be the snow node for this Achieving Perfection video. So, let's get into it. Now, the return of the Aenir node is going to give us the return of the Aenir support, which is going to make it so that at the beginning of each player's turn, create 2 snow gems. And when a creature enters the battlefield, if that's a snow creature, it gets +2/+2. And if it's an elf creature, you draw a card. For the objectives on this particular node, we're going to need to win the fight for 5 ribbons. We need to cast 4 or more snow cards during the fight for 3 ribbons. And now here's the really tricky one. Extinguisher. We need to kill 4 or more creatures of the same type during the fight for an additional 2 ribbons. So let's go over how to complete each of those, especially Extinguisher. Extinguisher is really going to be the tricky one. Frozen's going to be pretty easy. Now, one thing to keep in mind as we take a look at the decks that I suggest for newer players and players with more established collections is that because it's going to be converting 2 gems to snow every single player's turn, that means it's going to be 4 for every one of your turns, the board is going to fill with snow gems really quickly. Now, for newer players, I'm suggesting that you run a Nissa Sage Animus deck, and if you're able to run green-black, by all means, please run green-black. Do not run mono-green. However, of all the different mono colors that you can run, if you're new and you only have the starting walkers, the mono-green is probably going to be your best choice, as I'm going to detail here. So, Morite of the Frost is a fantastic creature for this node. You'll see that I'm actually running it in all of my nodes. I'm doing this for a few reasons. One is that it is a changeling, and so in being a changeling, if this creature gets destroyed, it counts as a creature being destroyed of all creature types. So it's going to help for whatever other creatures you're killing. This is going to count as that creature type also. And then also, on top of that, it's going to be coming into play potentially as a copy of anything that you want of your opponents that's super deadly. And so this could actually wind up coming into play and reversing the tide if your opponent has a better collection than you. And so if you're in a situation where you're running a deck like this, then you might be at the mercy of your opponent playing something nasty. And so Morite of Frost is going to make it so that you can counter those things. For the other 2 creatures, I'm throwing in Icehide Troll and Spirit of the Elder Guard. The reason for these 2 is fairly simple. They both have Berserker and they both are snow creatures. And so by both having Berserker and both being snow creatures, these are just going to be throwing themselves at your opponent's creatures and ideally killing them and themselves. And so with these dying, this is how you're going to be ideally killing 4 or more creatures of the same type. You're going to be throwing your creatures at things and having them kill themselves. So hopefully that will count as killing a creature because you're losing yours. It's tough to say if that will count for this until we actually play it. I'm not 100,000% sure. I'm hoping, right? Otherwise, you could run more of the fight mechanic. This is going to be like, and there's really no good way to sugarcoat it. This particular one where you have to kill 4 or more creatures of the same type is going to be an absolute nightmare for new players. So just keep that in mind. So the Troll and the Spirit are both going to be fine. You could alternatively, and I'll be going over this in just a second, but you could alternatively run mono black. It's just there aren't a whole lot of mono black cards that destroy your own creature. Most of them now are coming out and destroying your opponent's creatures, so that can make it tricky. So the Icehide Troll and the Spirit are both going to also get a little bit more powerful based on making snow matches or the number of snow gems down. So these will be able to serve as ways of killing your opponent's creatures, which is super handy. Then we've got Blizzard Brawl, which is going to make your first creature fight your opponent's creature, and if there are 9 or more snow gems, which there probably will be, your creature is going to get prevent damage. So this is going to be a pretty easy way to keep your creatures and kill your opponent's creatures, which you will need for that Extinguisher modifier. Blessing of Frost is here if you want to ensure that you want to buff up your creatures enough to be able to kill your opponent's creatures when you're attacking with the Berserkers. Do not play Blessing of Frost early just to do bonus damage. Only play it either to kill opponent's creatures or play it to kill your opponent. But if you play it early, you might find that you kill your opponent too fast, as there are going to be a lot of snow gems on the battlefield, so just be careful of that. Shimmerdrift Veil is in here as another card that is a snow card. And so this is going to just convert more gems to snow, but is there for really that purpose. Nissa's Pilgrimage is here because it's a very cheap card that's going to convert gems to green. And so for the few gems that are on the board that you are going to be able to convert, you do want to make sure that you're converting them to green. So that's why I'm running both the Gingerbread Cabin and Nissa's Pilgrimage. And then I've got Cosmos Elixir to draw us some more cards and gain some life. Card draw is going to be very important, especially in a monocolor. And then finally, you'll see that I'm running Binding the Old Gods as just a way of having extra creature removal in the deck. If you don't have Binding the Old Gods, then by all means throw in another card that's going to enable you to fight more so that you can try and kill more creatures. But the focus of your deck should be on killing creatures, and so that's really where I went with this one, in the Icehide Troll and the Spirit both having Berserker, and then using things like Blizzard Brawl and Blessings of Frost to power them up and make sure that I'm killing my opponent's creatures. Now, if you have more cards at your disposal, there are really two avenues that I would personally go, and these are going to, in some ways, mirror what I was saying earlier, but the first of those is going to be this deck right here. And so this is a Bolas deck. You can run any of the Boloses, but my very strong suggestion is that you roll Bolas the Ravager. And the reason why you're going to want to roll Bolas the Ravager is because you can use Bolas's Rising to kill a creature and then flip it, and then you can use the first ability to continually do 10 damage to target creature, which you can then start using to destroy all of your Faceless Haven tokens that are going to be coming out. Faceless Haven is going to be creating all the Realm Walkers in the world, and so with all the Realm Walkers in the world coming down, these are 4/5s. You're pretty much going to be guaranteed for the most part to get one on your turn and one on your opponent's turn for a grand total of 2 Realm Walkers, which is going to have 10 toughness, which is exactly the toughness that you'll be able to kill with Bolas. This is a changeling, so when you kill it, it's going to count for all creature types, and so as you're killing other things throughout the match, you can just start throwing away your Realm Walker tokens by destroying them to make it so that you get to that extinguisher a little bit more quickly. You'll see that that's actually pretty much the same reason why I'm running Morite of the Frost in this deck. It's also because I'm in Platinum, and let's face it, not everyone plays for objectives, and so they might wind up throwing something horrible into their deck that I do not want to face. But nonetheless, this will be able to turn into that card, put us on even playing field, and will still count as a changeling, which means that if I decide to blow up the board and this, that it will count as blowing up one of any creature type. I've got the Icebreaker Kraken in here because this is just an absolutely ridiculous card. This, in conjunction with Thassa, is going to make it so that I can basically full lock down my opponent, and you'll see that I am indeed running Thassa. If things get particularly hairy, I can go ahead and use Bolas the Ravager's flipped third ability to make it so my opponent can't draw cards, wait until they draw out and have no cards, and then just permanently spam this thing on repeat to freeze their creatures, get a full lock on my opponent, continue to use the third ability every time I want, and then blow up the board as necessary to get those extinguisher kills. Now, another card that's really important to have for this node, if you can check to see if you have it in your collection, is this Blood on the Snow. So this is going to destroy all creatures and then return the first creature that costs X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of snow gems. And then if there are 12 or more supports, you're also going to destroy all Vanguard supports. When you cast this, create 5 snow gems. So this is really important for a few reasons. 1, it's a snow card. 2, it destroys all creatures. So you can use this to reset your board and your opponent's board. And with the way that this deck works, you're going to be getting Faceless Haven token triggers like out the wazoo. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm testing this without there being a permanent support that's converting 2 gems to snow every single turn. Like, even without that, this is able to just come up aces and give you those Realm Walker tokens like crazy. So Blood on the Snow is going to pop them all, and then in popping them all, you're going to be getting all of those changeling kills, which will count for everything. So Blood on the Snow is, if you have it, like a must throw into your deck. Graven Lore is in the deck to serve as just another snow card. It's also going to give us more card draw, and it's going to convert some more gems to snow gems, which, if we want, we can go ahead and make sure that they're there to power up the Icebreaker Kraken, or we can use the Kraken to just destroy the snow gems, reset the snow, if we want to be able to convert or to get activations from things like Castle Vantress, which is going to be able to draw us some more cards, which is going to bring us to what is in the rest of the deck. I've got Ruinous Ultimatum here to be able to destroy everything on my opponent's side, so that's just going to get us more removal, which is necessary. Seagate Restoration to draw more cards, get more loyalty, make sure we can use our third ability, flip Bolas a little bit faster. I've got Thassa Deep Dwelling, which is, as mentioned, absolutely ridiculous and unfair with the Kraken. And then finally, I'm running Unholy Hunger, which is a little bit of an odd choice, I know. Why not run Mythos of Nethroi or Hagra Mauling? But both of those only target your opponent's creatures. This allows you to target your own creature. And so Unholy Hunger is here just so that we can make sure that we don't kill our opponents too fast, and we can clean up that Extinguisher objective by killing either A, Realm Walkers, or B, things on my opponent's side. So this deck, I've tried it out many times already. It works perfectly. I haven't gotten any crashes. It's absolutely fantastic. This is what I'm personally going to be using. So if you have the cards to make this deck and you have Bolas the Ravager, I would strongly advise that you use this deck and use it to absolutely melty face your opponent. Now, if you want a slightly different take on the deck, you could also run something more like this. And you can run something with Burning Rune Demon, which is going to let you destroy one of your creatures every single turn. And since you're going to be getting a Shapeshifter, the Realm Walker, every single turn from Faceless Haven, maybe even on your opponent's turns too, you can just keep throwing them away to your Burning Rune Demon to make sure that you get that Extinguisher done like that, like super fast, right? Furthermore, you could also run something like Rescue from the Underworld, which is going to let you destroy one of your creatures to bring creatures back from your graveyard. And so once you start chaining this, it's really weird, but when your Realm Walker copies get destroyed, they actually go to your graveyard as creatures. And so you can actually bring them back, which is quite strange. But whatever, it works. So yeah, it's because they don't count as tokens, they count as copies, and copies still count as creatures. So you can flood your graveyard with a bunch of copies, bring them all back. The rest of the core of the deck you'll see is pretty much the same, with Blood on the Snow, Ruinous Ultimatum, Seagate Restoration, Castle Vantress, and Mythos of Nethroi. You could actually swap out the Mythos of Nethroi here for the Unholy Hunger, but between Rescue from the Underworld, Burning Rune Demon, Blood on the Snow, I really am not worried about losing creatures for the Extinguisher modification. Now, yes, you can kill your opponent's creatures, but I just like the idea of making sure that I am able to complete the objective if my opponent is either A, being a jerk and running a creatureless deck with something absolutely terrifying like Dead of Winter, or B, if they are alternatively just trying to be like a total jerk and they're just running a whole bunch of different kinds of creatures. So those are your different options. I personally like this deck here the most. However, I fully understand the desire to run something where you're going to be destroying a creature every single turn with something like this. Now, if you are unable to make any of these decks, what are some other avenues that you can go? Well, the first thing that you're obviously going to want to do is type in Snow, restrict it to Kaldheim, and see which Snow cards you have in your collection. As you go through the different Snow cards that you have in your collection, this will hopefully enable you to figure out a little bit more of what it is you would like to do. However, and this is on the unfortunate side, pretty much almost all of the viable Snow cards in this set are cards that I wound up showing, with a few exceptions. One being Kaldring the Rhyme Staff, which is actually quite a good card. This is going to bring your Snow cards back from your graveyard and give them mana based on the number of Snow Gems. This is going to be really easy to accomplish because, I mean, there's going to be so many Snow Gems. So you could run something like this with a Berserker creature that has Snow and just sort of do the lulls thing where the creature just keeps throwing itself at your opponent's creatures over and over and you keep bringing it back. That could be kind of fun. Tundra Fumarole is a pretty solid card too, where it's going to be able to deal 6 damage to any opposing target. It's going to give you some loyalty, which is really, really nice. And then from there, there's Dead of Winter. I am not running this because I do not want to kill my opponent this fast. There's just really not a good reason to run this card on this particular node, unless you're just looking to absolutely troll your opponent, which, you know, I'm sure that some people will be doing. I'm not personally a huge fan of the Draugr Necromancer. You'll see that I don't have any experience. I've actually been watching some other people playing with this card. I've run up against it myself, but it's basically just that when an opposing non-token creature dies, you exile it. So as you're destroying your opponent's creatures, it goes to the exile. But then you only move a creature with the base power of 4 or less from your opponent's exile to your hand. So I'm not super fond of that right there. Lastly, things like Rime Feather Owl, I wouldn't run this in this node because this card is just going to get too strong. There's going to be too many snow gems, and you don't want to kill your opponent too quickly. There are a few other cards that I don't have, like a Darker Valkyrie and Orin Viper, but a Merit Lage's Sumber too, but I think that's about it, and I wouldn't personally run any of those either. So those are my thoughts on how to achieve all of the ribbons for the return of the Aenir node. Let me know what you're going, if you're going to go with something different. Let me know if you think that I missed something in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.